Hello, everyone. This is Glenn here in the Bay Ridge section of Brooklyn, New York. This is Thursday, July 10, 2025. How you guys doing today? You know, there are very few people in life, very few people in this life that actually get to see their lives turned around and their ship righted. So few people. I mean, I have opportunities right before me that most people in this world will never see happen for them. I'm going to speak about this and what trusting God, Father, Son, and Spirit really does for us throughout the course of time. No matter what we go through in life, no matter how bad a situation gets, no matter how devastating the attacks may be, I'm going to speak about this. And I'm only going to speak for me, of course, because I'm not going to speak for anybody else, because how can I speak for anybody else except for myself? Lord, bless this message to every one of us. For every one of us have unique circumstances that your miraculous working power works over time to direct, to alter, to change when necessary so that it fits your plan, to adjust to make it work out. As all things keep on working together for good to those that love you, Lord, and are called according to your purpose. I thank you for what's going to be shared today. In Jesus' name. Amen. So be it. God has placed me in a unique position over my years. And he knew that it was going to be very difficult for me to let go of the woman that I had been falling in love with years ago. I've never forgotten about since, which is highly unusual, particularly since we never went on a date before and we never had a cup of coffee together. But for some reason, meeting her in 2002, starting to pray about her after thinking about her more in terms of a girlfriend in 2006, 2005 actually, and then 6, how I would want to ask her out, but 2007 beginning to pray about her. And I've shared so many different angles from this. The opportunity that I have for God to be glorified in my life is massive. It's nothing for God, but it's massive for me. I mean, God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Now, I've shared how I spent, which was my fault, and it wasn't my fault that she was hurt by other men in her life. But the fact that she had asked me in our last time we ever spoke together in 2010 to leave her alone, she told me she wanted to spend time with Jesus. And when I asked her if in the course of her life, which was one of the last things I ever asked her, if she would be willing to ask Jesus if I was the one God had for her, she looked at me and she said yes, but there was just no way back then she was going to be with me or anybody. In fact, she couldn't even see the future that I was looking at. I've been looking at, since God began to work in me, the future down the road. Now, I can't make anybody understand or see what I'm claiming I have seen for years. I can't. And I don't expect anybody, nor would I want anybody, to believe me. I'm just saying I have been declaring out what I believe is going on in my life. And the only way anybody else around me could know what I've been trusting God for, speaking about all these years is actually true, is when she's actually back in my life out of her own free choice and own free will, as God works in her, and then the financial prosperity that he promised me many years ago. I've called these my 2 God-ordained promises that I came to realize for myself. This is my claim. This is my claim here in my God-ordained wilderness before the season shows up for it all to happen. So I've had unique opportunities. And I look back, and of course I can remember when I was put in Rikers Island for 84 days. It started out as being my fault. And there was an order of protection that she got against me back in those years, because that's all that she could have been. This is all she was going to be in those years. This is how she was. And of course, me going after her in those years, that's all I could have been. This is the place I was at in my life in regards to her. That's how she was in regards to me. What was not my fault, as I've been saying, is that she was hurt by other men. Obviously, she knows that wasn't my fault. Even she would admit that. But here's the point. The pain and suffering I caused myself and, of course, her, to have to go through the process of getting an order of protection against me. And there was the first arrest that took place in my life in 2013. She actually started to call the police on me in 2008, believe it or not. And then I let go for a number of years, but I kept going after her. This is a long trek here, friend. This is a long story of how, and I'm speaking here about a unique opportunity for God to work in this situation in her and myself to such a degree that all that I experienced with her, all the pain and suffering I caused myself by not listening to her to leave her alone, and not listening to the warning signs of God to leave her alone. And here I am still saying that it's going to work out. So for the sake of other people who have said it, over the years, either I'm stupid, out of my mind, and insane, living in fantasy land and delusions, or there's something that's going on in me that has kept me going, trusting God for her. Notice I said trusting God for her, not my own efforts, not my own abilities, but trusting the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit for her. That would be the only way. That the way she was, 180-degree opposite all I've ever wanted to have with her, could never happen. And for all that she did to get me out of her hair because I wasn't listening, for me to still believe that she's still going to come back in my life out of her own free choice and own free will. We haven't spoken together since 2010. I was in Rikers Island twice. Not twice, but I got arrested twice in 2013. The first arrest produced an order of protection that she levied against me. And I was writing a lot of love letters. Now, there's nothing wrong with writing love letters, but if the person doesn't want it, and if the warning signs were there to leave her alone, I wasn't listening. In fact, sometimes what goes into my head is something I think she emailed me back in those years. I want you to know how I think and how I feel every time I get a letter from you. Okay, she doesn't want it, she doesn't like it, but I kept doing it. This is how my mindset was back in those years. So, it was my fault that I didn't listen to her to leave her alone and the warning signs of God to leave her alone. So what I did to myself, it was my own doing. And I had to reap what I sowed. And so, even though this is 2025, that's 12 years ago, I'm still trusting the Lord to roll the reproach and the shame off me that I caused myself. And only God can roll the reproach and the shame off me because of what I did. Now, He forgave me, the Lord. I stopped going after her. Oh, sure, it was the hardest life lessons I ever had to learn. And then going through close to 40 court appearances. Man, I was in the most terrible jam, stuck in the unified court system, and there was just no escaping except for God's delivering hand, which is exactly how it happened. I'm not going to get into the full ramifications of it and all that I went through to get to that point, but even in 2014, after being released from Rikers in 2013, I was trusting God to deliver me from this whole mess that I made. I was making videos about it. And He did. Now, I didn't make it right, what I did. It was as wrong as can be. First of all, disrespecting her and not respecting myself. To leave her alone. And then God's warnings got brighter and brighter and brighter until I got locked up. First time was for 3 days. But what made it even worse, she said after a 3-month order of protection was about to expire, and I was still facing a year jail time, by the way. I still would have had to go through a trial at court. I had not yet been indicted. I had never appeared before a grand jury. What happened was in June of that year, and let me give you the numbers here. June 6, 2013. You add up those numbers, it adds up to 666. June, the 6th month, the 6th day, and then 2013. 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 6. My friend pointed this out to me, who was taking care of my affairs when I was in jail. And I said, look at this, holy cow. So I got rearrested August 6th. She claimed I violated the order of protection, which I didn't do. This is how messy it got. A woman that I've been saying since 2007, I believe God showed me she was going to be in my life one day. It got to this bad degree that I caused myself. If I had listened to her to leave her alone, and there's a reason why I'm going back and rehashing it here. There's a reason why. Even though it's all over, I'm on the other side of this thing, free and clear, thank God, only because of the hand of the Lord who delivered me, because of my stubborn stupidity, which it was. I didn't know how to let go. The Lord wanted me to put her on the altar, and I wasn't doing it. The altar is favor and grace, and I wasn't doing it. So back then, in 2013, it got to that point where I had to lie in the bed that I made. And then I had to own up, finally being responsible to myself and to God for what I did. And I put myself in the worst possible position because I could have lost this apartment here. It could have gotten so bad. I could have possibly gone to jail. And then she could have lied again and said I violated the order of protection again. And that could have gotten me possible jail sentence of a 7-year period. I was never indicted. I never appeared before a grand jury when I was in Rikers Island. I was there for 84 days. Rikers Island. That's not a trip to Hawaii. Let me tell you. And again, there's a reason why I'm going back here, friends. And just letting you know, as you can tell, how bad it got. And here I am still saying it's going to happen. That there's going to have to be something so drastically different in her mind and soul. So drastic of a change within her. After all that happened. For her to come looking for me, to reconcile, even to want to speak to me again, there's going to be something so incredibly different, so massively different within her mind, spirit, soul, and emotions and thoughts in regards to me that would cause her to want to come looking for me, not only just even want to speak with me again, but looking for me to reconcile. This is what I've been saying all these years. And this is what I believe is going to happen. I'm in a very unique situation here. Not everybody is in the situation I'm in. Not everybody's gone to jail. Not everybody was facing what I was facing back in those years. And when I got out, and I agreed to a court-appointed program, a medical program, because, they have to, what's going on in this guy's head that he keeps going after her. She admitted that we were friends to the police, but then she said, well, every time he sees me in the street, he keeps coming up to me. You see, what was going on here is that this crazy guy, as people would look at me, has been saying that I started to pray about her in 2007. Before any of these bad things began to happen between us. And here I'm making the claim that it was in 2007 the Lord impressed upon me, yes, she's the one I've chosen for you. But as more time was going on, I started to get the impression from the Lord, which is my claim here, that it was going to be a long period of time before she'd be in my life. And I would have to wait. 2007? This is 18 years ago, friends, this year. And I know for sure one thing and one thing only. I have been faithful to her in my mind and soul and nobody else all of these years. No matter how crazy I might have looked to her. I mean, you can imagine what she thought when she saw me as this kind of a prophetical guy looking at her this way, that she didn't know, and she couldn't possibly know what my claim was, that I believe God showed me she's going to be coming into my life one day. That scared her even more. I remember hearing through the district attorney, the first arrest, when I was in 3 days down at the Brooklyn Detention Center, that when I appeared before the judge the first time, I heard from the district attorney that she said, yeah, he thinks he's a prophet. And I said, my God, look how she thinks. Because, people who think that used to think the guy who thinks has some sort of prophetical insight, they think that person has to be crazy out of his mind. And that's what she was thinking, no doubt. He's crazy, he thinks that we're going to be together. This is no way. That's where she was in her life. I said at the beginning of this message that I'm in one of the most unique positions you're ever going to find in this world. The way I've been saying, the Father, Son, and Spirit is designing this whole trip, not only for her, not only for me, but for the both of us to eventually be brought together by God's hand. And she's not going to come against her will. She's not going to come kicking and screaming. She's going to do this because she actually wants to. And this is what's going to make this. When she does return, that's my claim. I keep saying it that way for the sake of every one of you. When she does return, that's the only way you could know that I was genuinely dealt the insight from the living God about her being with me down the road, and I was absolutely right. That was the reason I waited all these years for her, and I wasn't going to quit until it all happened by the hand of God. In the meantime, I could have avoided what I did in my God-ordained wilderness. I could have left her alone and leave her in God's hand. And really, I don't think it would have happened any earlier in those years, even if I had done everything right. It still wouldn't have been her time. It still would have been the many years later that I would have had to wait with absolutely zero communication between the two of us. Zero. Again, the last time we ever spoke to each other was August 19, 2010, on Shore Road for 3.5 hours. And the way I've been, looking down the corridor of years, from 2007 right to this tick of the clock here in 2025 in July, she's still not back yet. Something's going on inside me that has kept me trusting God, or what I'm saying is trusting God for her all of these years, and I haven't quit. I haven't stopped believing, no matter what happened, no matter how bad it got, no matter how devastating the attack was. And I had never been arrested in my life. I never had gotten problems with the police. But I fell in love with a woman that was hurt and in her soul, damaged by other men and by an upbringing in her life back in those years, that she told me when we used to speak, she felt like she had a ball and chain on her. And I understand why, because there was a time she said to me, you understand me so well. It's because her family was protecting her from the guys that did this to her. And she knew I was upset with the men, and I told her that. And I thought that my friendship with her would heal her. I really did. My intentions were good and honorable. But she said to me at some point, Glenn, you can't heal me. You can't be my psychiatrist. Now, I didn't want to come across as a psychiatrist, but I thought, if she stays with me, she'll forget the other guys. We can have our relationship, and it's going to all be well. She'll see I'm for her alone. I'm not stringing her along. I'd be a good, if not great communicator, great provider. It just didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen back in those years. Not only did she leave, there was a reason why she left. The Lord closed the door. It says he opens doors no man can shut, but he shuts doors that no man can open. And the reason why I got put in Rikers is that I was trying to go through the door God shut. Let me put this on pause in a minute. I was 56 years old in 2013. I'm 68 years old today. What's going on with me? What's going on in my spirit and mind? That I haven't given up after all that happened and all the years of silence. The last time I saw her was on Fifth Avenue here in Bay Ridge. She didn't even know I saw her in 2016. That was the last time. And obviously, I wasn't going to go after her anymore after all that happened. The last communication I ever had with her was me writing love letters, and the last letter I wrote was in March of 2013. That was the last time I ever reached out to her. But as I look back and I say with all the honesty about it, I would not have been any different back then. She could not have been any different back then. She had been resisting my advances, and I wasn't getting it. I mean, I was getting it, but I wasn't getting it. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't getting it to the point where I would leave her alone. I thought maybe if I kept going after her, she might change her mind, but look what it did to me. But there was a reason why I was going after her. It was because my claim is I had believed God had placed in my spirit, she's the one. She's the one. And there was never going to be anybody else in my life but her. And eventually she'd want me in her life. And when she's in my life, she's going to stay. She'll want me only. She'll let me in her life again. And this time it's going to work out. After all the years, when it didn't work out, what's going to make this work out now? Again, I'm in a very unique position. Most guys, when some woman puts them in jail or they go to prison and they have an order of protection, that's permanent. Usually you don't hear that. On occasion, things I've heard where it got that bad for some men, and eventually they got back with the woman. And then they're living as husband and wife. But that's so rare. This is the opportunity that I've been saying God has to show himself strong in my behalf and in her behalf. Since nothing is impossible for God, and since all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. If this purpose that I'm speaking about is God's purpose for the both of us, then nothing is going to stop it. Even her resistance to the degree she had it. Somehow, God working in her is going to change that resistance and the reluctance to not be with me. In fact, she said to me some years back, Glenn, you've got to get this out of your head. You got this visionary idea between the two of us. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen between the two of us. You need to stop this. Now, here's the thing. God, who knows the end from the beginning and knows all and sees all before it happens, knowing everything that's going to happen, he knew exactly how she was going to be, how she was going to think, and what she was going to say to me. He saw it all. And yet I'm saying he had still shown me in 2007, she is the one, and she will be back. As the word that I believe God gave me in 2009 is, she's coming back. What is going to change her from after all that she did? Because I wasn't listening to her to leave her alone, and then what I say, God showed me to leave her alone. What's going to change her? After I was charged with third-degree stalking, which was a misdemeanor in New York that carries at least a year in prison for the first arrest, and then I was facing more jail time, prison time, because of the violation of the order of protection that she said I committed 3 months after the first order of protection was levied against me. What would change her? And, people have looked at me, especially in Rikers, when I was there in a housing area with 59 other men. There was 60 in what was called Otis Bateman Correction Center at Hazen Street in Rikers Island. And we're sharing with each other while we're in jail. And of course, I'm sharing my story. And they're looking at me like, this guy needs mental help. Why would you want her back in your life after what she did? Don't you see where she put you? How do you know she wouldn't do it again? I heard all this. So I'm hearing all of these things. Going through all of these things. Back and forth to court. Back and forth to court. Going in the Rikers Island bus. Back and forth to court. To court, then back to Rikers. Then to court, back to Rikers. Then to court, back to Rikers. During those 84 days before I was released, I couldn't even post bail. I couldn't afford it. My friend finally agreed to post bail for me, which I don't have to get into the full story. The miracle that how I got out. But I still had to go through close to 40 court appearances even after I got out. I was in a mess. But I never appeared before a grand jury, and I was never indicted. Because what I did, I accepted a medical program plea. And I completed the program successfully. And because I did, you know what happened? I didn't have to go to any more court dates. The 2 docket numbers against me were dropped from the 2 arrests. And I had no criminal record. Now, this is not something to be proud of and pat myself on the back. What I'm saying is that's the hand of God. That's the delivering hand of God. Because what I'm saying is the Father, Son, and Spirit are invested in my life and in her life. For what he knew, he showed me long before she and I ever had these problems. And he's going to make sure he brings it to the point of birth and brings the delivery. It's going to be the miracle of God working in her so miraculously and so wonderfully that, as I've been saying for years, she's going to be 180-degree opposite the way she's been all of these years. But again, I am the only one that needs to know it for myself. And I do know it for myself, which is my claim. I'm not trying to make anybody understand it or agree with it. People are going to think about me the way they're going to think. But all I need to do is let the time pass and then let it happen the way God has said. That's going to speak more than anything else ever could to those around me who've known what I've been saying about her for years and what happened between the two of us. Habakkuk 2:3 says, the vision is yet for the appointed time. She said, he thinks he's a prophet. The vision is for an appointed time, meaning the ones that God gives us when they're genuinely from Him is for an appointed time. Long before it ever happens. In my case, years. And though it linger long without fulfillment, 18 years with me, wait for it because it'll surely come at the end. It'll not lie, prove to be a lie when it's genuinely from God, prove to be something I made up, prove that I made up something hoping it would come true, and that when God actually does it, it just happens to be some chance accidental happening. No, when something's genuinely from God, faithful is He who calls you and I to something, He also performs it. And that's the way He would make me then, a living epistle, a living letter to be known and read by all men around me. I will become a trophy of His grace. So will she. As He puts us both on display when we're back together, whom God joins together, let no man separate. As He puts us both on display for everybody who's known me, everybody who's known her, what happened between the both of us, and when they see that she allowed me back, or her friends or family or anybody else that has known about the situation, when they find out she actually wanted me back after all she did, they're going to know something incredibly different, drastically different, took place in her own heart, mind, and soul. Where she said back in those years, it could never be between the two of us. Never, ever. Get it out of your head. To want it at some point down the road, what would cause that type of change? It would have to be the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit alone. Alone. The God of new beginnings, the God of second chances, the God of restoration, I've been saying for years, is in both of our lives. So all I've been asking people to do, when they hear me say these things, just listen to my story. Listen to what I have to say. Let time pass without trying to convince me not to believe this anymore, because it's not going to work with me. Let time pass. Give me the fair hearing that I've been asking people around me, whether in my neighborhood or on the internet. I've never once mentioned her name for the sake of her privacy. Let me speak my piece. And let's wait to see if this happens or not. Now, I know it's going to happen, but for your sake, let's wait and see if it happens or not. And of course, I've had so many people stay. And of course, they don't know what I believe God has shown me. They're going to ask me that proper question. Well, what if it doesn't happen? You're going to be wrong, right? I said, well, looking at it from your perspective, yes, I would be wrong if it doesn't happen, right? But if it happens, I would be right, wouldn't I? And then the fact I don't have any money to take care of her to the degree that I want to at this point. A 68-year-old man who has about $1,500 to his name. Better than nothing. And I do have a business. But God blew on my business and her away, and He closed the door on all I wanted to have with my business and with her in my God-ordained wilderness. It's the only way I could look at it. When she started to back away from me in 2008, it began to affect everything in my life. And I wasn't going to stop going after her until I finally had to learn the greatest life lessons I ever had to learn. It was the hardest thing to learn, because I did it to myself. I tend to think maybe things would have been different if she was never hurt by other men in her life. Maybe things would have been different, but it wasn't. That's neither here nor there. The fact was, this is how it all happened. And back in those years, in 2014 to 2015, in February, I was saying all that time, I'm trusting God to deliver me from this mess, and I'm saying He will. And you know, that's exactly what happened. So, A, He delivered me from my prosecutors. He got my soul out of prison that I might praise His name. Things that I was trusting God for and speaking out back in those years. But now B, her coming back out of her own free choice and own free will to look for me. And there's only one reason she would want to come looking for me, to talk with me. And there's only one reason why she'd want to talk with me, to reconcile. That's what I've been saying for all of these years that she's going to do. With the word I say I got from God in my spirit about her in 2009, she is coming back. That was given to me in the summer of 2009 before we met in the summer of 2010 for the last time we ever spoke. So, try this spirit. Beloved, do not believe every spirit. Test them. Test me. To see whether these things are from God or not. Because many false prophets have gone out into the world. That was said then. I want people to test what I'm saying. That's all I'm asking them to do. I'm not asking them to believe me or trust what I'm saying or anything like that. I'm just declaring out, since I began to speak about her in 2006, then more so in 2007. Again, never once mentioned her name for the sake of her privacy. I just wanted people to hear what I had to say. Because I wanted this whole scenario to unfold to the point that when she's back, that would be the only way anybody could ever know what I said was true all these years in regards to her. And that it could still work out between the two of us even after all that happened. And it could be joyful between the two of us where the fruit will remain as if it never happened. As if it never happened. That takes the miraculous hand of God and the workings of God. The former things will not come to mind, God says. Behold, I'm doing a new thing. Now it will spring forth. Will you not perceive it? Will you not be consciously aware of it? Same for her. That there's a whole other realm we're going to enjoy with each other that we never had. That we're going to have. And what I'm saying is the second season, the second opportunity we're going to have with each other, where this time it's going to work. I remember in 2008, I said hello to her in the street, and she had already started to call the police on me in 2008. And she looked at me and she said, "Why would you want to talk to me after what I did?" That blew her mind. And there was another time in the beginning of 2008 when we met for a couple of days, the last day of New Year's Eve 2007 and the first 2 days of January 1 and 2, where she apologized to me for the way she was treating me and telling me, because her family's watching her, because of the guy she's with, she felt like she had a ball and chain on her. She said, I understood her so well. Friends, I could see back then the hand of God in this. Why would you want to talk to me after what I did? How much more will she think that back in those years? Why would you want to talk to me now and ever have anything to do with me after I put you in jail and lied against you, claiming that you violated the order of protection? Why would you even think I would have anything to do with you? And why would you want to talk to me? All things, when it's in the plan of God, work together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose. His purpose. Nothing can stop the plan of God. Nothing can stop it. But it has to be at the right moment, in the right season, at the right time, when the fruit is ripe, after God has worked all these years in her and me to finally get us to the point of reconciliation. God is the one who reveals she's the one. He knows how to bring her to my doorstep and cause the desire in her for me to come to reconcile with me and to stay with me with the fruit will remain. God is the one who showed me in 2012, Christmas night, that I would be made financially enriched in the future. God is the only one, Father, Son, and Spirit, who can fulfill both of those promises to me. With her back, and then financial prosperity coming. So that we will both know it was from the hand of God. And He showed me these things ahead of time. Before these things spring to life and come to fruition, before these things come to pass, I tell you of them, I show you of these things, says the Lord, so that when they do happen, you may know that I am the Lord, who declares the end from the beginning, the end result of what's coming from the beginning of when I first show it to somebody or declare it to them, what's coming for their future and the plans He knows He has for us, saying, my counsel will stand, I will do and perform all of my good pleasure. He's doing and performing all of His good pleasure for the both of us, within the both of us. I will do and perform all of my good pleasure and bring her back to you and create the desire in her to come reconciled with you. I will do and perform, when she's back, of the releasing of the blessing of financial prosperity. I don't expect anybody to believe me. I'm just telling you what I believe. I believe, therefore I speak. And in the plan of God we shall have whatsoever we say, when it's genuinely in the plan of God. If you say to this mountain, be removed and cast into the sea, and there was a mountain between us, and shall not doubt in your heart that the things you say will come to pass, you shall have whatsoever you say. I was saying it in regards to the unified court system back then, and that's exactly what happened. That mountain was removed that I caused myself. And then, when it's in the purpose and plan of God, and only when it's in the purpose and plan of God, and no other way could it be this way, whatsoever things you desire, when you pray, believe that you have received them and you will have them. Believe it's already yours. And I've been saying it in regards to her since 2007. And I will have, because it's from Him, eventually. Years later, as the seed has been casted upon the bread of the waters, He promised me that seed, which is her, is coming back to me after many days. I quoted that to her in an email I sent her in 2007, along with, many waters cannot quench love. If a man were to give all the wealth of his house for love, it would be utterly despised. You can't buy real love when it's genuinely from God for a woman with money. But God knows it takes money to keep a financial relationship going between the two of us. He's going to make sure that I'm financially enriched. So there'll be no financial concerns at all in our relationship. And I've been saying that for many, many, many years. During these 18 years, since God showed me in 2007, she's the one. And then 2012, I will be made financially enriched. These are the things that I could see in my spirit, knew God had shown me, nobody else could know. The only way anybody else around me could know is when it all happens. So if you were me, you're not me, you don't walk in my shoes. If you had 18 years of contrary circumstances to what you believe God had shown you, and then 13 years contrary, financially speaking, to the promise that God gave me for finances, you would do what I do as well. You would encourage yourself like King David did in the Lord. He encouraged himself in the Lord. Peter said, no trial at the moment seems joyful but grievous and full of pain. 18 years with me. But later on, and that's what I was looking down the corridor of years, the later on part, it will yield, when it's from God, the peaceable fruit of the promises fulfilled, the peaceable fruit of God's righteousness to those who have been trained by the tests that God brings us through. So not only did God bring me through this test, I also brought this problem on myself. So I compounded the problem by not listening to her to leave her alone back in those years. And more so, disobedience to the living God back in those years. And I'm still saying it's still going to work out. So, either there's something wrong with me, I'm crazy, I'm stupid and delusional, or I'm actually hearing and seeing things right. We're going to see, for those of you who have not believed me, obviously. We're going to see who's been right here at some point. Because eventually, something breaks. Either she never returns and I never have financial prosperity and I die without receiving the promise and I will be proven to be wrong, or she will return. The change in her would have been so drastic that it had to be from the Lord that did it within her. And the desire would be so strong within her. And then the feeling of estrangement from me, the same one who pushed me away from her, feels estranged from me. And she's going to want me back in her life because she remembered the good things she did like about me and the feelings she had for me then. But she was like a plant that wasn't ready to be blossoming into full bloom and fruit in regards to me. I had to wait for her to come into full bloom in her life. Which is why I asked her the last time we spoke, when she said she wanted to be alone with Jesus and away from all other guys. Knowing what I knew, what God had shown me about her, I asked her, you're going to find out down the road of your life who Jesus is going to have you. She said, yes, that's true. That was the one thing she agreed with me on that day we met. I said, okay, let me ask you this. Would you be willing to ask Jesus if I'm the one he has for you? You said you have feelings for me. I know you do. You admitted it. You're not ready to be with me today. You're willing to ask Jesus if I'm the one for you. You know what she did? She looked at me. I know she'd never expected that question from me that day. I absolutely know no other man ever asked her those questions before. She looked down, just thinking a bit of what I said. Then she looked to the right. She looked back at me and she said yes. I knew that day that we met was an arranged meeting between the both of us. God wanted her to see certain things about me that day, and he wanted me to see certain things about her that day. What I had to see and learn was that she wasn't ready for me, but she was willing to ask God if I'm the one for her. And the Lord wanted her to see, I'm truly convinced of this, that when I said, he wanted her to hear from my lips, which I said to her, I am willing and am going to wait for you as long as I have to, even though you're apart from me. And she looked at me, she says, why would you do this to yourself? Now she's going to realize it at some point down the road. She's no longer going to say, why would you want to be with me? Why would you have anything to do with me? He thinks he's a prophet. It can never be between the two of us. To all of a sudden being 180-degree opposite and realize God made me a prophetical spirit in regards to her. God is at work in us to do his will and his pleasure. And he that began the good work in us, he began the good work in me to show me she is the one. And he began the good work in her many years ago. He's going to bring it to completion. As the fruit will be born in her, don't want to come looking for me to reconcile. And she's going to see it for herself. Then I'm the one that Jesus chose for her. And I was right this whole time. It is God who's been at work in both of us for his will and pleasure to be done. Father, Son, and Spirit. And he, or they, Father, Son, Spirit, that began the good work within the both of us years and years ago, will complete it right up into the day of Christ. God made sure we met in 2002 at Dolphin Fitness Club, where I was a membership coordinator there. He made sure we were friendly and became friends. He knew those feelings in her were going to develop for me. The Lord knew that I was going to want her. And then I started to pray about her. And then I found out from the Lord that she's the one. Then he started to deal with me. It's going to be a long period of time, many years before she began my life. And he knew she was going to be resistant to it. And he knew I was not going to not obey him and her, listen to her to leave her alone. He knew I was going to be put in Rikers. He knew I was going to have 40 court appearances. And yet the Lord knew I was still going to be believing through every day, even after all that happened between the two of us. What will make her somebody who wasn't good for me in the time God says she wasn't going to be able to be good for me because she wasn't ready yet to be good for me or anybody else for that matter, because she had to be healed from her past that only God can do. To now be 180-degree opposite, where she will now be good for me after all that happened between us. As a branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. My Father's the vine dresser. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. The fruit that can only be produced in her by the Lord to be with me and to want to be with me can only be produced by the Lord Jesus. And he's going to get the glory in our situation. And I've been saying it since 2007 until now, this July 2025. So as I've been saying all these years, I say it today. Lord, be glorified in her life and my life as you bring us back together. The God of new beginnings, the God of second chances, the God of restoration. Whether she'll want to be with me. And she is going to be good for me because I always knew she would be in the right season. That you say, as Psalms chapter 1 says, we bear fruit in season. And then whatever we do in our relationship will prosper. She didn't have the fruit in her ready yet, Lord, in those earlier years because you had not worked sufficient in her to be able to be with me in those years. But surely you started the process within her to consider me. And now that those seeds that are in her are going to be born into fruit, and she's going to come looking for me, just as you showed me she would when you revealed to me in 2009, she is coming back. Out of her own free choice and own free will as you work in her. And then our relationship from day one of reconciliation, where we re-begin, we're just starting over again, is going to blossom and bloom out to much fruit the more time we spend with each other and the financial prosperity you promised me. I thank you, Lord, ahead of time. As you said, sing, O barren. And I've been singing and praising and thanking you for years of this situation, barren with her, and my finances are going to turn around. As the vision and the days draw near and the fulfillment of every vision and every word you've given me. And I thank you for it, Father. In Jesus Christ's mighty name, amen. So be it. My name Glenn means a dweller in a valley. The Lord showed me as a teenager that I was going to bloom late in life. The season is approaching, fast approaching, where it all begins in my God-ordained promised land. Out of the wilderness for years, enter my God-ordained promised land with her reconciled, hand in hand. Ready to go. Starting over again. In Jesus Christ's name. So my name is Glenn. I live in the Bay Ridge section of Brooklyn, New York. Keep on praying for me as I keep on praying for you. Because it absolutely works. As Jesus says, men, women, boys, girls ought always to pray for the course of their lives and never give up. The Apostle Paul put it this way, pray without ceasing. He who is coming will come and not delay. She who is coming will come and not delay. We're not of those who shrink back and not stop believing. We go on to the saving of our souls and promises fulfilled in God's time. Whatever is genuinely from God bears fruit in season. I love you guys. God bless you. And I'll see you next time. Take care.